What's up y'all, Forrest here, and today we're going to go over how to design and prototype a mobile application using Adobe XD. Now before we take a look at what we'll be creating in this video, I just want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Adobe for sponsoring this video and supporting the channel. It really does mean a lot, and I'm sure my subscribers will agree with me because it allows me to create more videos for the community. And speaking of the community, I'm actually going to host a little game for us over on Twitter. So basically you're going to use Adobe XD, which is free to try, so I'm not asking you to spend any money. You're going to use this tool. You're going to design at least 2 screens from an application that I know you have an idea for. So design that application, preferably mobile, but you know, I'm lenient. Do whatever you want and prototype those together. And if you just want to upload the screens, that's fine, but I highly encourage you to use the preview tool within Adobe XD that I'll show you a bit in this video in order to create a workflow video of your application. Take that video, upload it to your Instagram page, and make sure you tag me at forrest.swift as well as Adobe at Adobe Students. Both of the links will be down in the description. Make sure you tag both of those, because what I'll be doing is taking my top 3 favorite and giving you guys feedback, what I like about the design, what I don't like about the design, and I'm going to post those top 3 on Twitter as well as over on Instagram. I just thought this would be a fun little way to get the community interacting, designing that app idea that I know you have, all while having some fun. So go ahead and download Adobe XD, follow this tutorial so you learn how to design and prototype using Adobe XD, and that will allow you to pursue your app idea and not just participate in that game that I have going on, but also take the next step within the software development process for your app idea, because it goes from idea to design to development to deployment. So in order to take that from idea to design, this is the tool that you want to use, and then you're going to just go from there and you'll eventually have an app on the App Store or on the website, whatever you want. So I hope you've already paused the video and downloaded Adobe XD, because without further ado, let's take a look at this app. Alright, so this app is actually called Coffee Dev. It is actually an iOS application that serves as a portfolio for iOS developers. I know it sounds a little bit confusing, but it's really not. It's essentially, you know, how Instagram is to photographers, because that's somewhere you show off your pictures. Coffee Dev is to iOS developers because it's somewhere that they show off their applications and designs. So to take a better look at the workflow of this application, remember how I mentioned something about preview? It's basically this up here, because I already have everything prototyped in here. We come up to here, I'm going to go through, I'm already a dev, you log in, and this is the profile of it. So as you can see, we have the portfolio, we have example app 1, example app 2, and as you can see, these are essentially identical, or they're exactly identical, and we did that using repeat grid that we'll go over in this video. And if you also notice when I'm scrolling up and down, this is a fixed element where basically when I scroll up and down, it is stuck to the screen, stuck to the storyboard, so it gives it a more realistic feel because the footer nav never scrolls up and down along with the feet. And I was saying you're able to create a movie with this preview because you just come right over here and you are recording essentially this screen. So you're able to click through, you see here's the about, it gives you the about of Forrest Knight iOS developer, and then you can come over to the search tab and search for other developers. You know, here's essentially the explore page, here's a featured developer, and that's kind of the idea. And although you see these 5 storyboards on the screen, this storyboard right here is the only one that we will be designing in this video in order to keep this video as short as possible. However, if you do indeed want all 5 of these screens, what I'm going to do is upload these to my selfie store, and I'm going to offer them to you for free for now. So if you want, go ahead and download those and import them into Adobe XD in case you just want to play around. But I do highly recommend just focusing in on this tutorial so you can learn how to design and how to prototype using Adobe XD. Otherwise, you'll be a little bit lost. Alright, so now that we've seen the app that we want to create, let's get started. What we're going to do is come over to Adobe XD, and we're going to be designing for the iPhone 8. So on this drop down arrow, instead of selecting iPhone 10, which it may be selected by default, come down here to iPhone 6, 7, and 8, and select that for this. And just click on the iPhone there, and it'll come up with an artboard scaled to your iPhone 8 screen size. And before I get started on any of the design, I like to come up to File and get the Apple iOS UI kit. So I'm going to click on that. It'll take me to the UI resource tab on Adobe XD, and actually this is the first time this has ever happened to me. It's a good thing that they're updating the kit, but right now we can't access the iOS kit from here, I guess. Or maybe let's download it from right there. This is a previous version of the Apple Design Resource Kit. We're going to come down here, download for Adobe XD. and we're going to open up the UI elements. So that would be here. This one is for iPhone X, as you can see. I guess you can kind of see. We want to open up UI elements and design template guides. And this is the reason for that. It has all of the stock iOS UI elements. As you can see down here, we have emoji keyboard, regular keyboard, phone keyboard. We have navigation footer bars. We have status bars. We have anything under the sun that you'll see in a typical iOS application. And for this instance, what we need right now is this status bar to get things rolling. So I'm going to Command C to copy it, bring it on over to my storyboard, and Command V. We're going to pull this up here, line it up to the top, although we can't see it. Oh, that's not the top. But since we can't see it, let's adjust that. Let's select the artboard. Let's say fill. Let's make it grayish for now, just for now. And something else that I also generally like to do is come down to grid, give it a check, and instead of layout, I actually like to have it on square. Layout, I've actually never used layout, to be honest with you. I just normally would use square, and I would change the square size to 15 because I like to have a 15 pixel buffer between any of my UI elements and the border here, so it's not hugging the border and it's not too close. But for this instance, I'm not going to use the grid. So I'm going to uncheck that. And first things first, what are we going to do? We're going to import the background image for our profiles. So I already went to this website called Unsplash.com. You can get free photos over there that you can use in whatever work that you need, at least as far as I understand it. For this, I know it's okay. So I have a lot of those images downloaded here. This one, I'm going to click and drag. It's going to be a little bit too big for the screen here, but that's okay. Because we can just come over, make it a little bit smaller, bring it up here. And I want this image to be about, I don't know, maybe 300 pixels high. And if you are wondering how I know that, you can see this is the height, this is the width. I'm going to center that up. And as soon as I click out of the artboard, you can't see that hang off of that picture. So this is going to serve as our background, kind of. I also have this transparent-ish layer that goes over this, but we're going to hold off on that because I want to show you why I have that transparent layer. And if you haven't noticed, our status bar here is nowhere to be found. That's because whatever is above here is on top here. So since this image is above the status bar, it's on top of the status bar. So we just have to click and drag, boom, and there we have it. So now we can get on with our profile picture. We're going to make this about, I don't know, 100 by 100? No, let's make it 150 by 150. I don't know, that's going to be kind of hard to get. What I'm going to do here is just type in 150, 150, and I'm going to lock it so the ratio stays the same. So basically what that means is if I come up here, I can drag it and it'll stay the same. If this was unlocked, the ratio will be all out of whack, you see? So that's why this locking mechanism is good. I'm actually going to hit Command Z a few times to get it back to normal. I'm going to actually import my profile picture into here, which is this one right here. I'm going to just click and drag. Click and drag. It's as simple as that. It centers it up for you. And for the border, what I'm actually going to do is make that one of my app colors, which is kind of like a yellow goldish, and then the other app color is like a forest green. So I'm going to get the hex code for that. And then I'm going to click on border and I'm going to paste the hex code right in here, hit enter, and I'm good to go. But that's hardly noticeable, so I'm going to make it about 2 pixels deep. That seems pretty good to me. But also, I don't know if you could tell, let's see, one, you see how it kind of fills up the inner side of the circle right there? I'm going to click this button right here, make it be on the outside of the circle, make it appear a little bit bigger, make sure this is all nice and centered. I don't know, maybe have it about 20 pixels away, and maybe about 15 pixels away from the status bar there. And then we have to add our name, our occupation, and our location right down here. So let's hit T to get up the text bar. And we're going to type in Forest Night, whoops, since that is my name. Command A to select all because I want to make this Rockwell font, I think. Yeah, that looks good. Then I'm going to make this 22. And I'm also going to make this white. And I'm going to center it up right under my profile picture. And I'm essentially going to do the same when it comes to the text for the occupation and the location. So let's go ahead and have a quick little speed through there. All right, now that I have those lined up kind of where I want it, maybe I want to bring this name down a little bit to be about 15. I think each of these are about 15 away from each other, this from that, and that from this. So what I also want to do is take this line tool and create a line to kind of have a little bit of a separation in between occupation and location. We're going to make this a little thicker to be about 2, and of course we're going to make it white. Make sure it looks good all centered up. I mean, that looks okay, but let's actually make this more like 16 height. Let's bump this up a little bit. Now that looks good to me. So if you're wondering why I want to have that slightly transparent layer, that is because, as you can see from the lighting of the keyboard, it kind of distracts you from reading the location, this text right here, because it's just a little bit it's just interfering with it. Imagine if that background was even lighter than it already is. That would really deter you from reading what you need to actually read. That's why we're going to come over to the rectangle tool. And in all honesty, if you come and hover over these, you can see rectangle R. If you hit R on your keyboard, that also selects the rectangle tool. We're going to make it the same exact size as the picture, but we're going to throw this down here to be just over the picture. We're going to give this the color, that greenish color that I was talking about. Here is the hex code for that. And then we don't want to necessarily take this down like that. I mean, that does look good, but that's a little too easy. What we want to do is leave that at max. We want to come down here. I do want to take off the border first. We want to background blur it. And we're going to set that background blur, because you can't even tell what the background is, to about 5. Yeah, I think 5 looks good. We're going to drop this brightness down to 0. Just have a nice little neutral, and then bring this up to, I don't know, 90. This is basically the color. This is this color that I chose up here. As you can see, there's like no green, all green. So we're going to bring that at about 90. I think that's good. And obviously, you can read these very clearly at this point. So double thumbs up. Now we need to add a little bit more text. We need to add our portfolio tab right here and our about tab right here. So let's hit T on the keyboard, bring out the text. What I say, we're typing portfolio, and I kind of want this a little bit bigger, maybe about 22. And I want this to be about right there. And how about I line these up so they actually look a little bit good? Not before changing this actually down to 20. I think that's a little bit too big at 22. And that looks pretty good to me, except we're missing one thing, and that is to indicate which one we're selected. We can't have both selected at once. We either want to be looking at the portfolio or the about section. In this instance, we're going to be looking at the portfolio. So under about, we're going to make this a gray color. I like to have gray 88888. That looks like a nice undertoned gray. Kind of doesn't really pop out at you, which is kind of the point. And we're going to have this, since it's selected, have a little bit of a like a tab underneath, or just a little line. I don't know what to call it. Let's make this about 4 thick, and you can obviously tell that this is our selected section. Okay, moving on down, let's select the rectangle tool. We need to have that higher button. I'm going to take the border off here. I'm going to, one thing I forgot to do. Come up here, border, or you see how this color is of the border. I want to add this color to my palette. And then this green I also want to add to my palette as well. Boom. So when I come down here and I want to use that color again, I can just select it instead of going through the whole hex code deal again. I also want to add a shadow to this. So let's add that there. Maybe darken it up a little bit. What do you think? I think that looks good. And a lot of this has to do with the personal preference of how you want your app to look. Like for this instance, the higher button is essentially a call to action. So by incorporating the shadow, it kind of raises it above everything else. So we want to make it look like it's a button that you can press and that you want to press. So that's why we integrate the shadow into that particular button. Now it's on to the interesting part, and that is actually having the portfolio section of this application. This is probably my favorite part. So let's go ahead and get the rectangle tool and make a little rectangle here. I don't know, do I want it 60 by 60 maybe? That's not 60 by 60, 60, 60. Let me lock that to keep it in place. And I don't, I love rigid corners on particular things. Not this though, so let's kind of pull that in a little bit. And I think that looks decent. Let me take off the border there and let me pull in my coffee logo, not actually my coffee logo, but it'll do for now. So that looks fine. Not exactly. I wish it was a little bit more zoomed in, and I can do that, but for this instance, I'm not going to. Just know that if you want your logo to be whatever size you want, you import the actual image. You can make it bigger, and then you have to mask the layer. So look into that if you want it a little bit different size. But for right now, I'm happy with it. Let's move this over to 15 off. Like I said, I like to have that 15 buffer, and 363 because that gives it a nice little buffer from what is above it. All right, we have to title this application, so we're gonna, of course, title it Coffee Dev. We're gonna select all. We're actually gonna have to do a little bit of work to this. So let's take all of that out, make it 0. Let's make this 28. And let's make this Sign Painter, because that's essentially the logo font. So let's move this on over, be the same, like 363. But I also want this to be like 90 off, give it a little bit of room. And I want this to be the nice yellowish, goldish color. And it doesn't look too good against the gray, but if we take over here, we fill in the background with this green, then I think it looks pretty good. So now we want to have a little bit of a description with this, and that's going to be more text. But this text is going to be a little bit different. Instead of just having a typing and saying, sharing your apps with people, whatever, which actually I want to change this font before we go on and change this back to white. What we're going to do is delete that and click and drag a box, something that would be like 2 layers. And then we want to have our app description. So I don't know why I made it this, but I did in the demo, connecting you with hand selected software. And as you can see, exactly what this does is it wraps it around so it's not just on one continuous line. Wherever this line is, it wraps it. So if I were to come over and drag this back, it would do just that. Allow words to go into that line or take away words depending on where the line sits. So let's move this up here, make it look nice and pretty. Let's move this a little bit over, even with that, maybe a little bit up, a little bit closer. Maybe a little bit too close, but I don't know, I think that'll do for now. And then something else I thought would be pretty cool is to have a button over here. So we're going to take the rectangle tool again, and we're going to make a nice little button. We're going to make the width 60, the height 30, and we're going to round these edges. So of course you can pull these little circles right there. We can make this, I don't know, 10. That looks decent to me. We're going to make the border this nice goldish color, orangish color. I don't really know what color that is. And then we're going to make the fill black, but not just straight black. We're going to make it a little bit transparent to make it look like a button. We're probably going to add a little bit of shadow in here too. How do you think about that? So let's add in some shadow. Maybe make that shadow a little bit darker. Since that shadow's darker, I'm going to make this a little bit lighter to kind of counteract that a little bit. And then within this, no. And then within this, we're going to say get. Select it. Let's do everything we just did. I kind of want to center that just in case. Boom. Let's center this within our little button here. That doesn't look exactly centered, but you know, good enough for government work, good enough for me. And what I want to do with this is actually group it together. So I want to take this, I selected both of these as you see, and I'm going to hit Command G to group it together. So now, if I select this, I can move it around as a whole object. Let me Command Z to get it back to normal. And now I can pull this to kind of center it with my logo over there, the logo of my application. And I think that's a decent area as it is right now. Now what we want to do is incorporate our images. So our portfolios of apps, we want to show screenshots of those applications. So what we're going to do, instead of selecting these 3 and coming over and dragging them in and trying to adjust them that way, let's just Control Z to get rid of that. We're going to come in here and we're going to create a rectangle. I believe the dimension scale down would be 101 by 180. Oh, so close. There we go. Oh no, so close. 101 by 180. I don't want to have a border on it. And basically what I'm going to do is put this in a repeat grid. Pull this over. So now we can have this essentially, if I put this just right, spaced out between each other perfectly, as well as aligned exactly how we want it. So that's just about perfect right there, perfectly in the middle. And then we're going to pull these three in now and drop them just like that, and boom, it fills those out, which is super helpful. So I don't have to go in and resize everything. I just have to resize one and repeat grid it instead of repeating the actual process. So it's fairly convenient. For example, we're actually going to do that again. Let's actually pull this down a little bit to give us a little bit more perspective. And we're going to take the logo here, 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 and these three, of course. We're going to throw these into a repeat grid, and we're going to pull that down in order to, well, repeat that part of the grid. So what you can do now, instead of just having the same thing repeat itself, you can come over here and say my other app. And as you can see, it doesn't change this text up here. The only thing that would change would be the button sizes and things of that nature. If you wanted to have different button sizes for some reason, well, one, you probably wouldn't want to use a repeat grid, or two, select the actual grid itself, ungroup grid, and then you can come down and you could select this and you can change it freely as you wish, and this wouldn't change. But I like to have the grid. I want these buttons the same. It's only the text in the images, of course, that can change independently of the other options in the repeat grid. Very, very helpful. All right, so now we're just about done, but there's one point that I want to make, and it's actually a new feature, and that is this right here, fixed position. None of this needs to be in a fixed position. I'll show you more about what fixed position means here in a second, but a footer navigation bar will need to be fixed. So we're going to come on over, find our UI templates. We're going to drag in this label right here. We don't even need to drag it, actually. We can just Command C it, and then select up here and Command V, and drag it down to the bottom here. First things first, what I want to do is change the color to have a little bit of green tint. I don't know if you can even tell, but it makes a little bit of a difference, and change that there. And all of these labels, we can create custom icons by just messing around. You can either do them in Illustrator, and since it exports vector graphics, you can import it into here and it'll scale to whatever size you need. Or you can just create something in here using, like, for example, we created a heart right over here in our example that I showed you earlier. So let me just show you that real quick. Basically what I did for the heart is I took a circle, made a circle tool, boom, let's make this even, let's make it about 20 by 20, and that's not 20 by 20, so 20 by 20. I want to take off the border. I'm going to select this, Command C, Command V, or you could hit the duplicate command, but to each their own. And then I'm going to create a square, 20 by 20 maybe? I don't know. I'll have to play with it a little bit. Let me take the border off. Let me select this. Let me rotate this a cool 45 degrees, I think I want it. Boom, just like that. Then if I drag this up in here, that looks almost perfect. I mean, there's a little bit, imperfections here and there, but what we could do is kind of just take this, situate it properly right there. Take this down here, situate it. Let me pull that in a little bit more. Boom. I will take this, I will select all of these. I will Command G it to group it. And that will serve as my heart. And one thing that you may want to know is that if you group all of these together, make sure this lock tool is enabled, you can change the size of all of these at once, so you don't have to change each one individually. And that's basically how I make my heart symbol. Not the best way, it's really not, but it served the purpose for a design. It gives you an idea that this is a heart in the footer, so this is basically your notification section. But now what I want to do with this, I want to enable fixed position, right? And we can come over to the desktop preview, and then as you can see when we scroll, the nav bar doesn't scroll with it. So that's a huge plus. I knew there was one thing that Adobe XD was lacking, as much as I like them, and that was not having fixed positions. But now that they have it, I really have zero complaints. And another new feature I haven't really made use of is called overlays. Basically, it allows for animations to overlay upon switching between screens. You can just watch the Adobe XD video. They describe it a lot better there, but I think that's pretty cool as well. All right, so now that you have a basic understanding of how to design in Adobe XD, let's take a look at how to prototype in Adobe XD. As you can see, we have the 3 screens that you saw at the beginning of the video. We have the search or the explore page, and then we have the portfolio and the about page here. And let's come on over, as you can see, we're in the design mode, to prototype. I already have a few linked up here, but basically what you would want to do is actually, let's reset this. You can come over, let's click on this artboard. You can see all the prototypes here, but let's click on this button, About. When I click on the About, I want it to go to the About screen, which is over here. So I just click over here, drag it. I'm able to pick overlays like I was just talking about, or when I come back to transition, I can target, which that's exactly what I did by dragging it over to the profile artboard. And I can ease it. So do you want it to ease in or ease out? How do you want this transition to occur and over what duration of time? And that is basically it when it comes to prototyping. It is very straightforward, very simple. Basically, come over here. If I want to click the portfolio button, let me actually take this away. I will click, drag, boom, right over to this screen over here. Adjust this if I want to ease in, out, or if I just want to have no easing at all. I can just click on that, good to go. And we can come over to the desktop preview. And as we're sitting here on the About page, portfolio, we'll go over to a portfolio, About, we'll go over to About, and then if we click down here, the Explore button down here, good to go. If we click on this Hire button, it'll go over to here in order to allow me to hire that featured user, which is Forrest iOS developer. Takes you over to the profile over there. So you can actually see how this workflow occurs. If you have all of these screens designed in this whole entire application design, you can show yourself and your client kind of the workflow, how the app is going to work, essentially the whole entire user experience without actually writing a line of code. Because as we all know, it's a whole lot easier to design an application than to develop an application. At least it is for me. Developing an application can take months. This whole entire application to design, maybe a week. So guys, remember, always follow the software development life cycle. Right now you have an idea. Now you know how to design that idea, so go ahead and design it. Remember, upload that prototype movie to Twitter, tag me, tag Adobe. All links are down in the description. My 3 favorite designs I'm going to be giving you feedback on, as well as posting them on my Twitter and on my Instagram. So have some fun with it and get working on your idea. Another thing that I would like to point out is, guys, although right now Adobe XD is free to try, if you are a student, this is what I've been taking advantage of with the Adobe Creative Cloud that I use. I use it for Premiere, I use it for Photoshop, I use it for Lightroom, I use it for Illustrator, I use it for After Effects, I use it for Adobe XD. Anything I do that's creative, I'm pretty much using Adobe products. And students get 60% off of Adobe Creative Cloud. So just take a look at that if you're interested in, well, being a creative. So guys, I hope you found this video helpful. If so, make sure to leave a like on the video as well as subscribe, because I have plenty more videos that have to do with this, as well as software development, computer science. I think you'll really like it, especially if you made it this far in the video. So, till next time guys, have a good one. Peace.